Hey folks, Malforian here, and today we have our first dev diary for the Roads to Power DLC that is coming for Crusader Kings 3. This is a major expansion. This is bringing us the Byzantine rework, unlanded characters, estates. We are surprisingly getting a rework of one of the systems in the game already, and that is teased in this dev diary, so we'll get to that as well. I will say this dev diary is huge, so I'm actually going to split it into two videos. This one is going to be about the administrative, government, and everything that is covered in this dev diary. They do already say in next week's dev diary, we're going to get succession, how the military works, and some other things as well that will get called out during this dev diary. And then in the second video I'm going to cover the estate systems separately because, as I said, there's a lot here. This video will probably be at least half an hour long, and then the estates one will be a little bit shorter, but I think it's a lot easier for you guys to digest as two separate videos. So do make sure you've liked the video, subscribe to the channel. You'll catch both of those, and then as I said, next week we know we're already getting some more information about the admin government types. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming as we build up to launch. That is still 3 months away, so there's a lot of information. No real information here about unlanded characters, although there is a little bit here and there. I think they are going to concentrate on the Byzantine side of the content for these initial weeks, but we'll find out obviously as we progress. But we're just going to get straight into it. The first thing I will say though is that everything you see here, although it is almost finalized, they did call out like this isn't the finished product. How things look could change, and the numbers haven't really had a full pass yet for balancing, so don't get too worked up about things you see. It could change. I think the UI and everything in general looks really good as it is, but I'm sure there'll be some improvements. The numbers, as we always see, they're going to be balanced up to launch, and then I'm sure, as we saw with like Legends and Plagues, as players get their hands on it, we'll see some balancing later on as well. So at the start here, they're beginning with the basics. What is the administrative government type? And how does it play? So the first thing they really say here is that they took inspiration specifically from the Byzantine Empire and how that worked historically, but it wasn't the only inspiration. There are other realms historically that worked a little bit like this, so they have taken things from elsewhere. So it's not like a one-on-one replacement for historical Byzantium. There are going to be some things you probably saw in other realms as well. So the very basics are that you'll have an emperor who's situated at the top very neatly. You'll then have many governors and noble families, so we're getting a kind of noble family system, a bit like Imperator Rome, not quite the same. They're going to go into a lot of detail about it, but think of it a little bit that way if you did play Imperator. There are small cogs, but you're all part of the one big machine, the realm, and although you're all competing against each other, you're all trying to do the best for the realm. You're all trying to make the Byzantine Empire the best it can be. Is that actually true? Probably not, but that is the dream of Eastern Rome, I suppose. And we have our first screenshot here. It's the admin government. You can see the emperor there. You can see the faith as well, orthodoxy at the moment. And then you can see these are called themes or governorships. I kind of feel like just calling them governorships would have been easier. That's probably me. I'm just so used to seeing something like this as a governor. I think calling them themes, I'm sure historically it is themed correctly, you could almost say, but I don't know, the name just throws me off because I'm so used to theme meaning something else. So I don't know, for me, if it was just called governorships, it'd be easier, but that's just my simple brain. But do let me know what you think in the comments down below. And as you can see, this is quite a nice UI. You can see these are broken down by kingdom. You can tell some of the icons there, they're the houses that own them. And I think the flags for the separate houses as well, or the dynasties, in fact. And they will go into a lot more detail. I'm going to be saying that a lot in this dev diary because there's so much detail here, but we are going to get that covered, so don't worry about it too much. I quite like this UI. I think it looks pretty nice. I like the fact the UI is actually pretty big. It's not like really small icons or anything like that. We will see later on, you can see there's a noble families tab. They're going to showcase that as well. The emperor is the ultimate authority in the realm. It is the emperor who creates new governorships and appoints the governor of a theme. Again, I'm probably butchering the name of that, but I'm just going to say as I see it, theme. It's probably pronounced differently, I would think. The pool of available candidates can be vast, and the emperor will have to consider if they want to appoint a troublesome nephew to keep as much power within his family, or maybe someone a little bit more competent from outside of that and one of the noble families. Also, that will make the noble families like you more, but you're kind of diluting your house's power a little bit. So it's going to be that kind of tug of war really on what makes the most sense for you. Having a more competent but docile governor might be more useful, at least as far as the realm is concerned. So again, you know, if they're better at being a governor, the realm's going to do better, but you are kind of ceding some control there a little bit. Just as the emperor manages the overall structure of the empire, so too does he support and supervise his governors. He can lend them troops as needed, he can have them go to war on his behalf, and he will then reward them for performing and being in his good graces. So it looks like you can give your troops to different governors that you have to do things. It does say here, go to war on his behalf, so I wonder if you can go up to them and say, like, attack someone, I'll give you some prestige or some influence. We will see this was kind of spoiled a little bit in a previous dev diary We notice the icon at the top, and it is for influence. It's going to be a new currency that you use. I've seen some people online saying, why didn't they just use prestige? I can see that prestige could have worked, but I think as you can, as they will cover later on, convert other realms into this kind of realm. I think you could have kind of cheated the system too much by having all this prestige built up, and then you would be way too powerful. I think having this currency specific for this game system kind of works a little bit better. We'll get that clarified a bunch more in this dev diary and in future ones as well, but I think it does make sense having this other currency. I'm not a fan of having like a bunch of extra currencies, but I think it does make sense in this example. The power of an admin realm is very much intended to ebb and flow. When the empire is well managed, it will do well. If it is mismanaged, however, it will become weaker, and outside conquerors will be able to come in and cause some trouble. Very much how historically the Byzantine Empire worked. There's a lot of examples of incompetent rulers causing problems, and then obviously really good rulers who were able to reunify the realm and even expand and get some of the old Roman lands back as well. So they've tried to recreate that a little bit in this system as well. And then I'll say this next section is really important. They're actually changing the gameplay a lot more than I thought they would do. I thought the admin government would play differently. It's going to be a vastly different kind of game style to what you're used to playing out. As to whether this works, who knows, but we'll get into it now. So you can expect a different play style here, where wars give way to schemes, intrigues, and good old-fashioned politics. Internal wars between vassals is practically non-existent, as the primary way of expanding within the realm is to make efficient use of schemes and leverage your influence to jockey for governorships and other influential positions. So you're going to see less of those internal wars. They're actually going to use schemes and other things to try get in your good graces if you're the emperor, or if you're playing as a lowly governor, trying to work your way up the system. And then to show how much it is different, governors are unable to create or join independence or disillusion factions, making admin realms excel as large and sprawling empires. So you are going to have a little bit more stability, but that is traded off with some things we'll see later on. While they are significantly less likely to collapse or break apart, succession is a much riskier business. As I said, they're going to cover that next week. Claimants won't sit idly by as the empire kind of falls apart with an incompetent emperor. They are going to use these schemes to kind of replace you and try turn the realm around, or maybe even be as incompetent, but they think they're going to be better. The Byzantine Empire will play significantly different to how you're used to playing the game. You would normally gain titles through either war or marriage, but to gain lands and expand your power in an admin realm, you will have to engage in politics. You'll scheme against your rivals, leverage hooks against your peers, and make use of your influence to sway the emperor to your side. So it is going to play differently. As I said, how much it actually plays differently, we will see. But as we get through this dev diary, I think you will see it is going to play very differently. So whether you're going to enjoy this content or not, I guess it depends if you like playing the warfare side of the game, or having a more kind of like hands-off scheming and getting up to no good, or not even necessarily getting up to no good, but really focusing on other things rather than war is going to be whether you're going to enjoy this or not. You'll have to let me know as we go through what you think in the comments down below. And then as I was saying before, one of the reworks they kind of mention here is that the scheme system is actually going to get updated to make it more engaging. And they're adding some new scheme types for the admin realms, which is political schemes. So they don't really go into any more detail about how schemes are getting updated. I'm sure we'll get that covered before launch, but it is cool to see them going into a system that is used elsewhere in the game. And that is going to be improvements for everybody, I would imagine. I can't think this is just for admin realms. Obviously, these specialized schemes that we're going to get into are just for this type of government. The actual update to the scheme system looks like it's going to be for everyone, which is cool to see. There are several new schemes of this political scheme type, as well as a swathe of new interactions that will help you manage the realm, interact with your liege, your vassals, and your peers. Ultimately, however, these are all tools to help you leverage your influence to shape the realm to your will, and they're going to go into a bunch of these in the dev diary in a second. Byzantium is the main focus of this expansion and will be the only realm that starts with the admin government type, trading a lot of conventional gameplay in exchange for new and powerful tools at the cost of increased micromanagement and a less secure succession, again calling out that the gameplay is going to be very different. And then they do call out here, as I said before, that feudal and clan rulers can implement this government type. I would imagine the unlocks for this are pretty crazy, and that you would have to be an Empire tier realm as well. I don't think this is going to be easy, because I think it would be crazy if, say, like the HRE just constantly did this every campaign, so there must be some pretty stringent requirements. They do say they are going to get into that later on, though. And then we're on to one of the most important bits here, noble families. This is going to be a lot of your day-to-day and really how the kind of like heart of this system works, as they give away with the header there. So admin governments are unique in that they allow the existence of noble families. Every house in an admin realm is a player in the vast political game, whether they hold land at a certain time or not. All these families are jockeying for power, titles, and even control of the empire itself. As the head of a noble family, it is your prerogative to garner power in the form of securing appointments and positions for your house members, improving the family estate, and undercutting any political rivals who would challenge your name. So this is a new system that is coming in, as I said at the beginning of the video, a little bit like Imperial Rome noble families, but not quite the same. But if you have played that game, you will see kind of some similarities in some ways to this. But very interestingly here, they actually call out that you don't need to actually directly own land to be a ruler in this admin government type. This is not your personal fiefdom to do as you please. Admin realms should feel like sort of proto-nation states, as Byzantium can be described as during this period. As an admin governor, you are meant to manage the lands and act publicly on behalf of the realm and your liege. That's not to say you can put something aside for yourself, however. It is a tough job managing the realm after all, so very much like being a regent for a ruler, you can kind of like skim off the top and make it extra worth your while to be in these positions. But as they mention here, you don't actually need to own land that you are the governor of. So that is something to keep in mind during all of this. It kind of ties into the unlanded gameplay, but not really in the same way. But the systems are linked together in that I think if we didn't have unlanded characters, this system would have to work very differently. So it's cool to see that they kind of launch together, and you can see kind of like the cross systems here a little bit, where you can be one of these rulers and not actually directly own land. This means that you can quite easily also lose any land that you hold, should you be forced to resign, unable to secure the succession, or maybe even willingly give it up so you could put yourself in place for a better governorship. So if you're playing in like a backwater governorship and you're not really having much success, it looks like you can give that governorship up almost and try to get promoted into a more lucrative governorship. And as you don't own the land of that governorship, it's kind of easier for that system to work. You're not having to kind of mess around with things. You can end up just getting promoted into better places. You can expect your house members to hold on to some land most of the time, but there will also be times when you won't. If this happens, you will be able to keep playing as a landless noble within the realm. Should the empire fall, however, you shall fall with it. So this is going to be a really interesting system in where you can have no land, you can play this governorship system, but the problem is, of course, is that if the empire falls, as they say, then you'll convert to a feudal system or a clan system, and you don't own any land. So the game will end for you at that point because you don't fit the requirements for the game to continue. That's a really cool system. I hadn't thought about it. I suppose maybe the game won't end. I wonder if you can carry on as a landless character in the other way that system's going to work, which we will find out more of in the future. I suppose that is the case. Maybe the game doesn't end, but you will lose all your hard work gains in the Byzantine Empire in this example. If it falls to somebody else, you're basically kicked out with no land. But if you did own some land, obviously it'll just convert into a feudal system or a clan system, and you'll get back to kind of normal Crusader Kings gameplay if you want to think about it that way. And then as we said about not holding land, you will still be a powerful political force, and you can take a lot of actions that claw your way up the power system. Unlike the more mobile adventurers, you are still very much part of the realm. You cannot simply pick up your things and leave and go elsewhere. Again, another hint to unlanded characters there, where they can move around the map a lot. Although you'll be unlanded within the Byzantine system, it looks like you have to stay within the Byzantine realm to carry on interacting with this system, which makes sense, but it is a good clarification to put in there. Landless nobles are made playable by a new type of title, the noble family title. This is a new duchy tier title that is typically held by the house head. You can draw comparisons to how mercenaries or holy orders are set up. They exist with a duchy tier title held by the respective leaders, but there's an important caveat to mention. This means that if you don't have a noble family title, you will be unable to play as a landless noble. Now, I believe this is just about landless nobles in the Byzantines, obviously. This isn't about the other unlanded character gameplay we're going to get. This is specific to being a unlanded noble in the Byzantine or any other admin type government if you're playing elsewhere that has implemented the system. You will almost always be playing as a house head. However, if you find yourself in the extremely rare case where you aren't, they have modified the decision to create a cadet branch, so it's much easier under the admin system, so you can basically make yourself a house head. Even if you somehow end up not being it, you can basically make one really easily to kind of get around the fact that it would be a little bit weird if you weren't. And then as I mentioned earlier, this is the other tab in the admin government screenshot that we saw earlier. These are the noble families of the realm. As you can see, the emperor's at the top there, and then the next two important, powerful families below. They're going to get into a lot more information about this in a second, so we won't spend too much time here, but you can see there's like a raiding. You can have some actions on the right-hand side as well. I really like the UI here. I really like the colors of it. It kind of follows the similar things you see elsewhere in the game. I really like how the house or dynasty badges are pretty large on the left-hand side, and also just like the effect of the UI. I really like the kind of mosaic look to how it is. And then with our screenshot, we obviously need to know how it works. And this is powerful and dominant families. So noble families are sorted into normal, powerful, and dominant. These designations are based on something called powerful family rating. You could see actually in the screenshot it's been shortened to family rating, which I think I actually prefer, so hopefully that is the case. And this indicates each family's level of power within the realm. Think of powerful families as the who's who's of the realm. If a powerful family manages to become dominant, they have by and large subdued all the other political families in the realm. Should you desire, you can manipulate and control an admin realm as the head of a dominant or powerful family without ever becoming the top liege of the realm. So, as we mentioned earlier, a little bit like regencies, you can not be the top person, but actually end up controlling a lot of what happens in the realm by the looks of it. I would think there's a bunch of decisions you can do, very much like viziers or regents, where you're kind of grabbing bits of control here and there, and the emperor can't really do much about it if you're that powerful enough to do it. And then further differentiating this from a normal feudal or clan realm, it isn't really the individual vassals who play a large role in the realm, it is these houses. The more influential they are, the greater their impact on the realm. Powerful families remain so regardless of the position of the house head, so you can go from being a governor to landless and back again, and it doesn't really affect your position in the short term. So your family rating will fluctuate, but you don't have to have land to be the top person. And going up and down in like land ownage, it is going to be a more kind of like ebb and flow, I guess, of like people going up and down the system. It's not going to be yo-yoing up and down as much as you could potentially see in a feudal or a clan government. Becoming a powerful family entitles your house members to several benefits and tools. For example, only members of powerful houses can use the new depose and subsume government schemes. So that's how you can kind of scheme around to gain more land in the realm. Well, not even really land, as we've seen. Really just the governorship titles and all the bonuses they bring. They get a flat discount to promoting candidates in the new succession type, which, as they've already said, is going to be covered next week, and are generally better at political schemes. It is easier for them to become a co-emperor, and they're going to discuss that as well in a later dev diary. So as we already knew, you can be a co-emperor and kind of take bits of the realm for yourself by the looks of it. As to exactly how that works, we are going to get that in the future. Any powerful family that is also able to control a significant portion of the realm will become a dominant family. This happens when you control enough governorships to cover 25% of the realm's total size, so your family must control a fair amount of land to become the dominant house. A dominant family enjoys all the benefits that a powerful family has, but to a greater degree. They are much more of a problem or a nuisance for the liege. Once reaching such a power of position and influence, they are difficult to dislodge as well. They have a much easier time becoming governors by significantly reducing the cost of investing in candidates. Again, that's going to be covered next week. And have a much easier time requesting support from lesser families. Additionally, all members of a dominant family are even better at political schemes than the other powerful families, so it looks like it's a stacking modifier for the most part in some places. It does unlock specific things, but then everything else that you get a bonus for being a powerful family, you just get more of that as a dominant family as well. So you're going to be able to do a lot of things easier. Think of it, I think, almost like the legitimacy system where you get cheaper versions of things. The higher up that system you are, things get cheaper. It's easier to make a realm. It's easier to have alliances, marriages, things like that. I think this is going to almost work like a version of that. If you are this family, you just get an easier time at doing things, as well as all the other bonuses that you see here. Every family rating also affects how likely the members of the house are to inherit the top liege's title, e.g. becoming the Emperor of the Byzantines, as a portion of the rating is added to the candidate's score. So I guess this helps give a little bit of stability to the house that is ruling the empire. It will be much easier to compete for the title with a high rating or keep it within your family if you are already the emperor, which I guess is how it worked historically. It was generally the same family who kept it, but there were ways for other people to kind of like intercede and take the title from them if they could. It is important to note that admin realms don't have the concept of powerful vassals like other governments do. You can still have powerful vassals should you have vassals of other government types, as those will be able to become powerful vassals as per usual. Admin vassals, however, cannot. This is only the case where a feudal or clan vassal becomes part of an admin realm, so that's very interesting. So they don't convert into this system. I wonder if there is a way to push them into converting into this system. I've got to think there is a way to do that, but yeah, that is interesting. So if you take over somewhere that's feudal, they stay in their feudal system, but like attach themselves to your admin system, but they still keep the features of the feudal system. If I'm reading this right, they can become powerful vassals in addition to your admin realm. So that is interesting how it kind of merges together those two systems to keep the other people happy, I suppose. And then, as I said, there must be a way to convert them into this type. Maybe if they've been your vassal for so long, they can convert into an admin vassal and switch over, or maybe you could just ask them to. Anyway, with all that being read through, as I said, there's a lot of information there, a lot of it kind of like dense information altogether, so hopefully you've been following along. The next part of this is just as dense in a way, but it's broken up a little bit into smaller parts, so it's going to be a little bit easier to follow along, I think. So the first thing they're going to cover here is the powerful family rating, which they were talking about already, and this is going to break it down a little bit more. So there can only be a handful of powerful families at any time, 5 to be exact. I think that makes sense. You don't want to just have a bunch of powerful families, because then ultimately, if everyone's powerful, nobody's powerful. As a famous person once kind of said, the top liege's house is always considered powerful, but does not take up one of these 5 slots. So they kind of lied there a little bit, didn't they? They said 5 to be exact, but there can actually be 6, so that's kind of funny how that's written. Houses are then sorted and ranked according to their rating, as we saw in the previous screenshot. In order to become a powerful family, a house needs to have a rating above a certain threshold. This prevents small and seemingly insignificant houses from becoming powerful, as they need a certain amount of sway within the realm before they gain the benefits of being a powerful family. Again, this is a good system just to prevent those smaller houses getting unlocks that kind of would mess this system up a bit if everyone had those abilities. When above the threshold, it is the 5 houses with the highest rating that are considered powerful. That makes a lot of sense. And as you can see, they've got the tooltip appearing for their score, and you can see living house members in realm plus 20, the house head's level of influence plus 3, estate located in capital plus 10. As I said, I'm going to cover estates in the next video on the channel. Landed house members plus 10, and number of held governorships plus 43. So you can see those governorships are very important for gaining power, and then also having as many living house members in the realm also helps you as well. I'm sure there's like a dropping effect on that though, so you can't just have like 100 living house members and always top this system. I'm sure it kind of depreciates as you get more and more people. And then as we've seen in that screenshot, there are several factors that impact this rating. There are smaller factors such as the current number of living house members, which exists as a potential tiebreaker if families have a similar rating. Oh, that's actually an interesting way of doing that, as we just kind of guessed as to how that could work. It is interesting that that is really used as a tiebreaker, so I guess that does make sense. If you have a bunch more people from your house, it is a good tiebreaker, I suppose. Your estate and the buildings you construct also play a central role in this rating. Again, they're going to cover that soon. If the estate is located in the realm capital, you gain yet another small bonus. That makes sense. If you've got your estate in the most expensive place to do it, it's going to be seen as more illustrious and things like that. Other factors you can actively pursue is being part of the Liege Council, where every position counts. If you can get other members onto the council, the rating will increase further. Oh, that's actually a really cool system where you can scheme to get your family members on the council, and that gives your family more power, more prestige to unlock additional things, potentially become emperor by using this system or getting around it in that way. If you don't want to do that, however, you could pick the Heart of the Family Diplomacy perk, which grants a small but not insignificant bonus, so tying into the lifestyle system there, which is always cool to see. The most important factor, however, is the number of governorships your family holds. Each governorship also adds a multiplier, increasing the value of all the other factors. Okay, so that's how they kind of focus on governorships the most, because it multiplies all the other figures as well, so that is definitely the most important one to look at. And then next we're going to see family attributes. To give each family some additional flavour, they have access to what they call a family attribute. This is a small set of bonuses that apply directly to all house members, as well as a separate bonus that only applies to the liege. I'm not sure what I think about this. It is a little bit like the Dynasty perks, but like a worse version of it. Not like gameplay worse, it's just the numbers are less. Like it's just like a mini version of that system. I'm not 100% sure what I think about this. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like, are we getting too many of these systems already that kind of like stack things on top of each other? I think we're getting close to it, to be honest. But anyway, let's look at the system itself. So a family attribute is only activated if and when they are considered a powerful family, so that does limit that somewhat. Since there is a limited number of powerful families, the liege won't be able to stack these modifiers indefinitely. Instead, they hope that these serve as an incentive to keep certain families around, making sure they remain a powerful family so you don't lose out on the bonuses they provide. Dominant families are a little bit special. Their house members get to benefit from their attribute, but the liege will not. Okay, that is cool. I like this system, to be honest. As I was saying, I think it does overlap with the Dynasty system a little bit. I do like the fact that if you become powerful enough, it actually negates the bonus the liege get. I guess thematically that makes sense, but again, it's a little thing that I would have overlooked, but it's cool they've added that in there. And then as they say, it is a way to make you kind of actually care about these powerful families and want to maybe pick and choose which ones you want, because you want the bonuses that they're going to give. And as to the bonuses, there are a number available pertaining to different scheme types, improving troops, and generating more influence, and much, much more. And you can see in this screenshot, this is the Confident Schemers one. This allows the liege to have one more hostile scheme. And then the house members, and this is our first kind of sneak peek at the scheme rework, is hostile scheme growth plus 2%, hostile scheme potential plus 10%. So we don't know exactly how good that is, but that is what the house gets, and the liege gets that max hostile scheme plus 1. As I said, this does kind of stack on other bonuses. You could end up having a lot of scheme potential using this, but I guess that's kind of cool. But I do worry about, like, could we ultimately end up with like plus 10 schemes that you could have going, and you're just getting up to all sorts of shenanigans. But we will see how it balances out, obviously, up to a launch and with future patches. But I quite like this. As you can see, there are a bunch of options here. Tax, armies, respected despots, lofty architects, martial students, diplomatic envoys. It looks like any way you play the game, you could kind of focus on that a little bit. And then, as they said, as the liege, you could almost like pick and choose, like, oh, I want a bunch of these. I don't want these other ones. It does say that top one doesn't stack. We have got to remember that. So you can't have like 5 confident schemers and get plus 5 schemes. It's more like you can get this bonus, and then being intrigue focused, you can do more schemes. And then there's obviously dynasty unlocks and other areas in the game where you can unlock additional schemes as well. So it is good that these don't stack, but I can see how plus other ones, it could get a little bit out of control, to be honest. And these attributes, they exist to give different families different flavor and to give them some additional identity and character. And I think that does actually work the way they've done it. Not all families are alike, and the attribute symbolizes what they are good at, or perhaps their origin. I guess that kind of makes sense, but I don't think that's probably true, actually. I don't think it really shows the origin of a family or what they're good at, because you could have one of these where they're confident schemers, but if you never actually play a scheming character, it's not really linked to what they do. But I can kind of see what they're going for. The AI won't change these on the fly, so when you're playing as the Emperor, you'll know the bonuses each family provides at all times. Again, something I hadn't thought about, but that does make sense. You wouldn't want to kind of work to get 5 of them at the top, and then they all just change what their attribute is, and you're like, well, that was a total waste of time. So it is good they actually lock in. It is a bit gamified, I suppose, that the AI won't change it, but as a player, you can change it. But I do see how that does make the system better, actually, for a player. As a househead yourself, you're free to change the attribute at any time. There's no costs attached, and you will only incur a short cooldown, and then you can change it again. To be honest, I'm not sure what I think about that. I get why they've done it this way, but I think it also negates some of the system. Like, if you could just change this however you want. So if you're scheming, you change it to the scheming one. And then potentially you're going to go to war, so you change it to one of the army commander ones or the martial student ones, and then you'll get a bonus for that. I do believe there should actually be some kind of cooldown to this. Maybe you could only change it once per lifetime or something, and then maybe there could be some other perk that allows you to change that system, but I'm not actually sure about being able to just change it on the fly whenever you want with a short cooldown. I'm not sure. Let me know what you think. Like, I think that takes away something from this system, to be honest, because then that would be like, I know it's a much bigger system, but if you could just change like your lifestyle at any time. Oh wait, no, you can do that. But I guess that's fine, to be honest. All in all, noble families are the heart of the admin realms. Their members make up the body of the ruling characters and are constantly positioning themselves to grasp more power, station, and influence within the empire at large. So that's our first look at how the family system is going to work. I think this is actually way more fleshed out than I thought it was going to be, and I do like most of what I've seen. I do worry about the kind of stat stacking, and again, with the attribute system, I kind of wish that was locked in some way, so you can't just gamify it depending on what situation you're in. But overall, I think that looks pretty cool. As I said, a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. In the next part of the dev diary, we're moving on to Victoria 3 and talking about Spheres of Influence, which is a new system coming into that game. Wait, no. It's just about influence in Crusader Kings 3, don't worry about it. Influence is a brand new resource, as we did see in some screenshots with the date announcement, and this represents the power and sway you hold in an admin government realm such as Byzantium. It's all about your ability to manipulate others and leverage your political standing in order to achieve a more favourable outcome. In many ways, influence is a tool that will make you successful, and gaining influence will be the key to achieving your goals. Unlike other resources, influence is hard to come by in great quantities, for now, and it has many varied uses. I do like how they're saying, like, you can't get this everywhere. We'll see in a year or so how easy this is to get hold of. It is the lifeblood of an admin realm. While a powerful emperor or high-ranking governor might be allowed to do as they wish in theory, in reality, it is much more complex than that. This resource symbolizes how gracefully someone navigates the politics of the realm, and a truly powerful emperor will secure their rule and might through clever use of influence, for example, by securing army support or ousting troublesome governors. So again, as we mentioned right at the beginning of this video, so long ago, this is a new resource that you build up. It works a little bit like Prestige, but as they say, you should in theory get less of this, less often, and then you have to really pick and choose where you want to use it. But there are many ways to use it, and they are going to cover a bunch of those now. So as you can see in this screenshot, that is the icon for influence. They've got 810. They're getting almost 2 a month. And then as with the other ones, there are tiers to this. the level of influence that you have. And then in the second screenshot, you can see these different ones. So you go from impotent up to imperious if you are the top level one. And gaining influence, well, how do you actually do that? Your monthly influence gain very much depends on your position within the realm, your skills at manipulation, and your success with schemes. And here are a couple of examples of where you get it from. So the first one being the governor trait. So very much like other traits in the game now, this has these kind of like unlocks depending on how much XP you build up in this system. And this trait offers bonuses to monthly influence gains and a bunch of other things as well. So you can see here at level 1, it will give you +1 stewardship and +1 influence a month. And then obviously as you get further and further, it's going to give these bonuses plus other ones as well. So again, somewhere else you can pick up some stewardship. Other places you can gain it is the Liege's Council. Having a seat on the Emperor's Council is a very easy way to secure some additional influence, alongside some other bonuses pertaining specifically to the play style of an admin realm. So as you know, you do get bonuses similar to this already for being on the Liege's Council, but they have been reworked a little bit if you are in one of these realms. So this gives you +3 prestige, +2 influence, which seems like quite a lot, fellow vassal opinion +20, enemy political scheme potential -10%, and monthly diplomacy lifestyle experience +20. So as you can see, a mix of the old ones and some of the new ones added in there as well, which is pretty cool. Another way to get influence is being a governor, and in particular, they have another way to gain influence. As an administrator, first and foremost, you're meant to oversee and manage the land you are appointed to. If you perform your duties well, you will be rewarded for it, primarily through influence, but there's going to be more about that later on in this dev diary. As I said, a crazy long dev diary today. Of course, another way to get this is through alliances. Alliances are very important for every realm and government type, and admin is no different. If you manage to secure an alliance with the head of another noble family within your realm, you'll get influence every month from these. These stacks, so the more alliances you have, the more influence you will get from these. So again, a little mini game you can play, get as many alliances as you can. That's going to give you more influence, and then you can use that influence to affect the other houses even more. So it could almost be like a snowball effect where you're just building this power up slowly and slowly, and then gradually you're taking over the realm because you've played the marriage game well, you've got these good alliances, and it's kind of like being feudal, but it's not. It's getting these different bonuses that you've then got to use elsewhere in the game. And then we've got our first look at the estate system. This is just a very short bit. There's a whole bunch of the dev diary about the estate system. As I said, that's going to be a separate video, so this one isn't going on to like 2 hours long. So we will cover this quickly, but there is going to be a lot more information in that follow-up video I am going to be doing. The primary building of your estate offers compounding influence bonuses as it gets upgraded. There are additional internal and external buildings you can construct in your estate to gain even more influence, like guest chambers, for example. And then in the screenshot here, you can see the mansion. The most important bit we're going to look at here is the influence. That is giving +2 per month at level 3. All the other bonuses that you can see there, we'll talk about in that next video that's going to cover this system specifically, but the most important bit there is influence in this example. And then as you can see, the guest chambers, you can also increase that. And then again, they're kind of adding these additional bonuses into other areas of the game as well. But that gives a +4 monthly influence gain at level 2, and then up to level 6, I imagine, what, like a 10%, 15%? And again, this is where we're seeing like other stats in the game being brought into the system. So as we mentioned before, is stat stacking going to get a little bit out of control? We will see in the future. And then next, it's not just the estate. Normal holdings obviously exist in the game still as well, and constructing and holding certain buildings within your holdings will also give you influence gains. For example, they've added a new fisheries building type that can be built around the Mediterranean. It provides additional monthly influence, which increases as you upgrade the buildings. This is cool. This is a special building specific to the Mediterranean area. Now, it doesn't say just the Byzantine, so I guess anywhere in the Mediterranean, or a certain part of it anyway, you can build this building. And then as you can see, it's giving you tax, development growth, the usual kind of things. And then the holder of this building does get 0.1 influence a month at the lowest level, and that will increase upwards. I guess if you build this and then the realm falls apart, you are still getting the other 2 bonuses. If you're not part of an admin realm anymore, you obviously don't get the influence. I imagine you don't like stockpile it up. It must go once the empire falls apart. And that is some of the ways you can gain influence. Well, once you've gained it, what do you need to do? You need to spend it. And how can you do that? There are plenty of ways, as they say here. First and foremost, influence is a key factor in securing governorships, both for yourself and your family members, by investing in succession candidates, which again, they're going to talk about next week. That's like the 10th time they've said that. But you will generally use it to climb the political ladder in different ways. For example, you can demand council position. We've seen this before. It works very similar to the ways you can get hold of this now, but this is a way of using influence to try get a council position as well. And as you can see here, you can choose which role you want to pick up in the council and the bonuses that each one of them gives, which is cool. You don't have to go back into the council and see which bonuses it would give you. You can just see from this UI what it is going to provide you if you can. And as you can see here, it is going to cost 500 influence. If you decline, you get the influence back. I almost think you should get like half of it back if he says no, to kind of prevent you just kind of not spamming this, but I think this should be a negative thing that happens. If you go up to the Emperor and say, give me that roll, and he goes, no, there should be some kind of punishment, I think, for that. Maybe there's an opinion modifier or something, but I do think it would be cool if you got, like, I don't know, 4/5 of your influence back. Maybe you got 400 back and you lost 100, kind of spent influence by going up and thinking you're great, and the Emperor just going, nah, you're not that important, mate. Go away and leave me alone. So I think that would be cool, but it doesn't look like that is the case at the moment. You can also spend this to force somebody to join your faction, so you don't have to worry about hooks here. Hooks will obviously still work to do this, but using the influence system, you can get the same outcome by using influence instead of a hook to force somebody into your faction. As they said earlier, there's going to be a lot less factions in an admin government, but as you can see here, you can still make factions to try and stall yourself onto the throne. It's just the disillusion and some of the more annoying ones that you don't really have access to in this game mode. Influence can also be used with alliances. You can actually spend a portion of your influence to try sway somebody to make an alliance with you. So again, not just using hooks, you can now use influence to kind of push them into liking you that little bit more. As you can see in this example, spending 100 prestige will give you a +20 temporary modifier to push through an alliance they would usually say no to. Again, this isn't final. That number could change, but as we can see here, that is the number at the moment. And again, I think that's pretty cool, going up to them and leaning on them and saying, look at all this influence I have. If we make an alliance, maybe you'll be seen as being more important. Another way you can spend it is petitioning liege. Yes, that thing you can already do. For characters in an admin government, the decision to petition your liege costs influence instead of the usual prestige. So really just reusing a system and modifying it to use this instead of prestige. I guess it makes sense because so much in this system uses influence. It kind of replaces prestige inside these realms. So I guess it does make sense a little bit there. And you can see in this screenshot the decisions and contracts. Now, the contract side of this, we don't know what that is. Somebody in a previous video I did called that out, that you could see it as an option here. So I guess that's around unlanded characters. I'm guessing it's where you can set up a mercenary band or something, and people will come to you with a contract and say, can you do this? And you say yes or no or something like that. We'll cover that in a future dev diary, I'm sure. But for here, we're just looking at the decisions. You can see governorship confirmation. There's gather faction support, embrace heresy. I'm not sure what that is. I wonder if there's a heretical faith near you. You can now choose this option to switch to it if you want to. For piety, or maybe even influence could be used for that. We'll find out in the future. And then there's also train for a tournament. So I wonder if that's a way to spend gold to become temporarily better for a tournament that is coming up. That would actually be a pretty cool system. I'm sure they'll cover that in a later dev diary, but cool to get a sneak look at some of the decisions there. And then the last one mentioned here is bolster governance. You can put your influence to good use by aiding and improving your governors, while also gaining some opinion in the process. So this one is more focused on making the realm as a whole better, improving the lands that are within it. And as you can see, you can divert resource, grease palms, burnish reputation, support bureaucracy, and remove obstacles. So this will give you an opinion bonus, but then also a boost for 5 years, it looks like, in these different areas of the realm, which is cool to see. And that, my friends, is the end of the Admin Government Part 1 section of this dev diary. So I really, really appreciate it if you stuck around to the end. Make sure you've hit that like button. Make sure you've subscribed. If you've watched this whole video, I mean, what are you doing, to be honest? But hopefully you've enjoyed it. The next video on the channel is going to be about the estate system. As I said, that is the second part of this dev diary. I will say it is considerably shorter than this first section was. I mean, they really had to lay down, I guess, the basics of the admin system, and then later on they can kind of build on that with future dev diaries. But as I said, the estate system part is a little bit smaller, so I won't be keeping you around for too long videos, but hopefully you've enjoyed it. But we'll leave it there for today, and I'll see you in the next one.